Good evening. It's Uncle Jago's story time. Now, I've talked about rail safety a few times on this channel, usually while explaining something else. But recently I came across a true story that was, if anything, the absolute opposite of railway safety. I have quite a large collection of old issues of the Railway magazine. This is a magazine that's been going since 1897, and as a consequence has covered a lot of important railway history as it happened. Hindsight may well be 2020, but I think there's a lot of value in getting the perspective of people who were there at the time, before they had a full picture of how things were going to pan out. But apart from its usefulness as a historical resource, it has a lot of odd little stories. Usually there's not enough there to make a video out of, but for this story from July 1935, I'm prepared to make an exception. The headline is Locomotive Battering Rams, which is certainly eye-catching. It opens thus. Referring to the comments by Mr. Cecil J. Allen in his April article on a letter from Mr. W. B. Thompson comparing the relative merits of the new LNER 282 Cock o' the North and a Sturrock single driver of bygone Great Northern days. Okay, that sounds weird and possibly a little filthy if you don't know what they're talking about. I should probably provide some sort of explanation. So, Cock o' the North was a new London and North Eastern Railway express locomotive of the P2 class. It doesn't survive, but they are building a replica of it at the A1 Steam Locomotive Trust in Darlington, which finally means I have an excuse to use these shots. The designer was Nigel Gresley. It was hugely powerful. That 282 means that it had 8 driving wheels, whereas most top-link express locomotives had 6. So, in layman's terms, it had an extra pair of wheels pushing it along. They were particularly designed for use in Scotland, where the gradients were steeper and that power was needed. None of that is really relevant here, but suffice it to say that it was a big, strong engine for its day. And that is the context of this story. A Sturrock single, meanwhile, was a very different beast, but designed for a similar purpose. They only had 2 driving wheels, as was the style at the time. Sturrock was Archibald Sturrock, the designer. There was more than one kind of Sturrock single. These ones were built in the 1850s. He designed a later and better version that was built in the early 1860s. Both types were built for the Great Northern Railway. The singles, like the P2s, were express engines. They hauled express trains up the East Coast Main Line to York, where they'd be swapped out for another engine for the rest of the journey to Edinburgh. Again, none of them survive, but here is a Sturrock tender that does. The story, as related by Michael Innes, continues thus. The Down Scotch Express was going down Retford Bank, signals all clear, when Oliver Hindley saw a train going east from Sheffield to Lincoln, which would meet him on the level crossing. Oliver Hindley was the driver. Also, a down train is actually one going up towards Edinburgh. I know it doesn't make sense, I don't make the rules. Where was I? Train meeting him on level crossing. Oh yes, that's pretty bad. However is he going to resolve this? He could not stop, and with that clear mind, which is so marked in Englishmen in time of danger, he put on full steam and sent Mr. Sturrock's beautiful express engine clean through the goods train, scattering the trucks like match splinters. Number 210 carried the dents and scars like an old warrior, and looked handsomer than ever for this brush with the enemy of express trains. So yes, that's quite a remarkable feat, and I suspect there was a strong element of luck to it. Had it gone wrong, we might now be talking about this as one of the worst train crashes of all time, as opposed to one of the craziest near misses. Oddly enough, there is, of all things, an episode of Thomas the Tank Engine that's strikingly similar to this, in which a goods train is fouling the main line and Gordon the big engine smashes through one of the trucks. I assumed this was some flight of fancy on the part of the production team, but they actually did have a railway consultant who fed them real-life stories for inspiration. So I wonder if this is where that story came from. That same series also featured a character referred to as an old warrior. Or maybe it's all just a coincidence. Wait, if the trucks in Thomas the Tank Engine are alive, does that mean Gordon killed someone? Interesting and disturbing thought. Anyway, this isn't the first time I've overthought a series aimed at 4-year-olds, and it probably won't be the last. A few videos back, I pointed out how hard it is to stop a modern train. Back then, braking technology was much more primitive. Having driven a steam locomotive, specifically this one, I can tell you that they are quite difficult to stop. They take a while to respond to controls. So I'm not entirely surprised that the driver decided to go for broke, open the regulator, and charge at full speed. I also like the bit about Englishmen in times of danger. I see a lot of people talking about patriotism these days, but let me just say, if you haven't driven an express train at full speed through a goods train, I don't want to hear it. I have a friend who's training to become a driver, and he informs me that this sort of thing is definitely not part of the course. If you ask me, I think that's very short-sighted of them. The magazine concludes the article thus. Mr. Innes adds, I am afraid we shall not have the opportunity of comparing the respective merits of Mr. Gresley's and Mr. Sturrock's locomotives as battering rams. We have referred the matter to Mr. Allen, who replies, in any event, if the experiment is tried, I do not propose to be present on the train. Of course, we've now had the benefit of 90 years of hindsight, and I can confirm that that experiment never did take place. Probably for the best, really. Signalling technology has greatly improved over the last 110 years or so hopefully it never will. Well, I do hope you enjoyed this video, something a little bit different, something a little odd. Sometimes I just come across a story that interests me so much that I just have to talk about it, even if it doesn't really relate to anything else. If you did enjoy it, please do leave a like and consider subscribing for more. If you'd like to see the P2 for yourself, the A1 Trust's workshop is attached to the Head of Steam Museum in Darlington. There is a second project, I understand, to build a replica P2, which is in Doncaster, but I'm not sure exactly what the status of that is at the moment. I would like as ever to thank my donors on Ko-fi, on Patreon, and here on YouTube for your generous support. You are the distinguishing dents to my Sturrock single. And I will see you all again very soon. Cheerio.